Hello there, my name is Shane Teskey and I'm one of the founders of Motorcheck.co.uk. Thank you for coming to watch this video. I'm hoping it will be relatively brief, but we decided to record this to help people who've shown an interest in Motorcheck and thinking of availing of a trade account. So I've got a very short presentation I'm going to run through here. It's only 4 or 5 slides that will hit on some of the highlights of why you should consider using Motorcheck as your primary provenance provider. Then I'm going to open up some sample reports and give you a feel for the functionality in the system. It's designed really as a brief introduction so that if you'd like to have any further questions or get involved in a deeper level, you can schedule a meeting with me and we can talk specifically about what it is that you need to achieve. So, on to the presentation. The first thing I'm going to do is make this picture of me a whole lot smaller so I'm not getting in the way, and talk about why Motorcheck is commonly being referred to now as the UK's gold standard in car history check. We started operating in the UK just over 10 years ago now. We've been in the car history check business for over 20 years in total, and in the last decade or so we have proven a track record across a multitude of large dealer groups, like those obvious names you'll see in front of you there with Swansway and Arnold Clark, Virtue, Jardines, or now called Lithia, Group 1, all the way down to some independent companies, large car supermarkets, even some finance houses or finance brokers. So we are now providing millions of car history checks per annum to a variety of organisations in the UK. In fact, we have just over 9,000 dealers registered on our platform today, and we have a review score on Reviews.ie of 4.9. I'm going to show you some of those reviews as well in this presentation if I've got time. So why are people moving to Motorcheck? Well, I guess when people started moving, first of all, it was because we were actually cheaper. In fact, we are still one of the most competitive checks on the market. On a like-for-like basis, you'll find that we're approximately 30% cheaper than some of the other market leaders. We are an exclusive provider of ex-salvage checks. Many of you might be aware that over 100,000 cars a year are written off in the UK that don't make it onto the official MyAfter database. And Motorcheck has an exclusive access to this information for our trade customers. Where we see a flag for an ex-salvage check, you'll also be able to see pictures of the damage that the vehicle incurred, which has proven invaluable to our customers. Second thing we are is an exclusive provider of ex-taxi checks. So if your car that you're checking has ever been used as a taxi or a public service vehicle, there's a very good chance that we'll have a record of that on Motorcheck. And that particular database has been expanded recently to include ex-military vehicles, ex-police vehicles, fire, ambulance, any other state body that's running cars. And we're including stuff like vehicles that have been used for track days, or indeed 4x4 experience vehicles, learner driver cars. There's a whole plethora of other categories that are falling into that section of our reports. We are the only car history check that will integrate a service history into our reports. So if you'd like to request the digital service record for a vehicle on Motorcheck, you can do so. It may be that you'd like to fill in some of the mileage history, or you want to get a flavour for who's been looking after the car. That can be pulled in, and I'm going to show you an example of that too in a minute. Last but not least, something I want to touch on is that we also can provide over 1 billion used car ad listings in our checks. So there's a very good chance, in fact it's 65% of all reports that we generate today will have a previous ad returned in the report. Where we've got a previous ad, we've got the pictures of the car, we've got details of who offered it for sale, how long it was on the market for, what price it was first advertised at, and what price it was eventually sold at. Along with all of that, we've got the details around the specification of the car as it was last listed, and that can be very, very useful indeed. So when you come to using Motorcheck, one of the points we'd like to make is everything you'd expect to have in a vehicle history check is present and correct with Motorcheck. Of course, you've got a vehicle identity check. We check if there's finance outstanding. Has it been written off in the MyAfter insurance database? Was it stolen? We offer detailed mileage checks with investigations, data guarantees, cherished transfer checks. We include the MOT history and MOT expiry dates. We have a whole variety of used car valuations that you can view on the check. You can print off certificates, and we're just like our competitors, OEM approved. But along with what you'd expect to have in a check, there's a whole lot more. I've touched on some of these earlier in the presentation, but it's useful to run through them again in a list. So we have an ex-salvage check with damage pictures, ex-taxi information with the council details of where it was registered as a taxi. We provide ex-government checks for police, fire and military vehicles. You can include digital service records. We also offer the ability to recheck just the finance section of a report if that's what you need to do without having to run a full check again. It's a very popular aspect of our service. If you want to verify that the finance is indeed active on a car, we've got a service just for that as well. You can request remote images to be uploaded directly to your Motorcheck report, and we've got a little app on there that helps you identify any damage or dings by hovering over the picture. The ex-listings check, that's the previous ads we've spoken about just a minute ago. We include details around the manufacturer's warranty, whether the vehicle still has any warranty outstanding on it. We also include information around its running costs. You will have free republishing rights for every Motorcheck report you run. So once you've done the report, you're very welcome to list it on your website next to your used car listings. If the cars come from the Republic of Ireland, because we have a sister company there, it will include a history of its time in the Republic of Ireland. And last but not least here, we have a full WhatsApp integration. So for those of you out and about who need to get access to a Motorcheck report, all you have to do is send a WhatsApp with the registration number of the car, and you'll get a message by return giving you all of the specific information around the key headings and a link to the full Motorcheck report. You won't have to log into your account. It only takes seconds to see, and it's proving to be a very, very popular part of our service. So just to round off the presentation, I wanted to mention that we have our own UK dedicated and expert support team. They're available through business hours, 12 hours a day, 6 days a week on your Motorcheck Trade account. There's a little chat widget that appears down on the right hand side of the website. You can email them or phone them as well, but we find chat is by far the most popular way to interact. And I mentioned earlier, we have a 4.9 score on reviews.io, an awful lot of our customers mentioning the high level of customer support that we offer. Some of our customers like to use Motorcheck in other systems like their showroom systems or their dealer management systems. And if we don't have a native integration with that application, we have a free Google Chrome extension that you can activate on Google Chrome, and that makes looking up Motorcheck reports from any registration number on screen an absolute breeze. We have another article on that if you'd like to view it on our help documentation. And the final screen refers to the WhatsApp integration that we've already talked about, and I'll see if I can come back later and do an actual screen demo of that at work. So now that we've gotten through the presentation, I figured it would be best to jump into a trade account and give you some examples of the data that we'd be helping you with in your car history checks. So the first thing I'm going to do is jump into my dashboard here, or into my test account where I've got some previous reports run. It's very easy on Motorcheck to run a report. You just click the plus icon here to run a provenance check, pop in the registration number and hit check, and they'll all come up for you. If you want to see your previous checks, you can change your filters, run different date ranges, decide to look for specific reports under individual users, or indeed let's look at ones that have got particular flags like the salvage flag, for example. So just to show you, I mentioned the Ex-Salvage checks earlier. Here's a vehicle that we've got on Motorcheck, BF160GU. Now this vehicle will show as clear on any other car history check provider because it doesn't have a record on the official MyAfter database. However, on Motorcheck, if you run it, you'll see that it has a mileage discrepancy and something called a condition alert. So if we scroll down through the report, feel free to pause this video if you'd like to examine any of the sections in detail. You will see, I just scrolled past it there, that it's got MyAfter no. So there's no record of this car having been written off on the insurance databases. But on Motorcheck, you'll see in condition alerts that actually there's not one, but there's two condition alerts on this car. The first one was recorded back in May 2018, where it had the designation of Category S structural. And there was a description typed in: accident damage to the front, including suspension and near side rear damage. The vehicle starts. Viewing was welcome at the time. And all you need to do if you want to get some information behind that is click this little thumbnail here, and you will very quickly have access to the images of that car when it was sold at salvage auction. So as you can see, an incredibly useful piece of information to have in your Motorcheck report. The industry, generally speaking, is reporting that there are more and more of these vehicles turning up on their forecourt, and the assumption is that there's more and more of them being written off and not updated on the official databases. Actually, the problem is just the same as it's always been. What's happening is that more and more dealers are using Motorcheck, so the window or the avenue for disposal of these cars by somebody who's trying to sell it or offer it in part exchange means that they can only visit dealers who don't have access to Motorcheck. So if you're seeing more of these coming through your door, it's possibly because you are not using Motorcheck and your current provider doesn't have access to that information. So let's pop back to my links here, and I'm going to open an example of a vehicle that was previously seen as a taxi. Just going to have to log back into my account and pull up the taxi record. So this is a peach of a car, Mercedes-Benz AMG E. It has a mileage discrepancy, it has condition alerts, and it has a taxi and usage check flag. So let's check out the taxi flag first. So you can see here, it has been found in our database and it was registered as a taxi in the Vale of Glamorgan Council. So that's very interesting. It confirms that that car was indeed used as a taxi. And now let's have a look at the condition alert on it as well. So we do have one condition alert. It was recorded in March 2021. And interestingly, the category used here, which is a category used by the salvage industry, is used unrecorded. That doesn't have any direct link to the level of damage that the car has sustained. It's just an indication that it's not going to be recorded on the official MyAfter database. The detailed description says damage is front and rear end, but let's have a look at the pictures and we can see what we are dealing with. So most of the pictures you'll see as well will contain at least one picture with the VIN number showing. Okay. Right, yeah. So the damage is significant to this car, even though it's categorized as used unrecorded. Airbags have deployed driver and passenger side. Again, this car, I believe, was showing clear on the MyAfter database. If you're interested in getting any more examples of cars that have been salvaged, just feel free to email me and I can send them across to you anytime. So let's have a look. Yes, this car is clear on the MyAfter database. And in terms of its mileage, you'll see on the left-hand side how Motorcheck likes to graph its mileage information. That's because we recognize that a huge amount of odometer discrepancies that are shown are not in fact evidence of a car having been clocked. They are just data input errors. And you'll often see where it builds a mileage history and then it either peaks up to a spike and returns to where it should, or drops down and comes back up again. And they're data input errors that we can deal with very, very quickly. All you have to do is click the Investigate Mileage button on your report, select the reading that you believe was put in by error, start the investigation, and one of our support team will remove that from the database very, very quickly. So you don't have a customer annoyed by the fact that they're showing a discrepancy on their car when really it's just a data input error. So just coming back into our reports again, I'm going to take you through an all clear check, and we're going to mention some of the other facets or pieces of information in the report. So coming down through it, we have the identity information or the description of the car with the VIN number. I mentioned earlier in my presentation that we do have the ability to recheck finance in a report. So just to illustrate that properly for you, let's pop back to our database here. Let's pick this Volkswagen T-Roc that has finance outstanding on it. We can see it was last checked on the 29th of January 2025. It was Motability Finance who had finance on it under a lease for 43 months. And we would have some customers who would recognize that that finance, having been paid off already, should be coming off the register. Now, rather than having to run a full Motorcheck report again, you can indeed just click Recheck the Finance now, and you can see we still have finance outstanding on that car. If I click this little icon here, I've got a full audit trail of any notes showing me that on the 29th of January at 10:59 there was finance found with Motability, and as it's still the 29th of January when I'm recording this video, at 7:30 it's showing that there is still finance on that car. If I've, as I say, paid it off, and I know that it takes Motability 3 days to clear finance, I can diarise a finance recheck by clicking this button here, Schedule Finance Recheck. I can ask it to come back in 3 days and do the recheck, which it will do automatically, and then email me the results. I can push that out to 5, 7, or 10 days if I see fit as well. So just coming down through the report to the other sections, we've got the write-off section, which we've already talked a lot about. Our condition alerts, whether there's a DVLA scrapped or VIC marker on it, has it been stolen? There's our mileage information. Here's where you can request the service history on a vehicle. So if I pop back to my examples here, I believe we've got an example. I think it was this taxi where we can see some service information. So just coming down through the main menu, go to the service. No, it wasn't on this one. Let's come back and look at this Audi TT. I know there's definitely some service data here. So, service history, there we go. You can see once requested, if we have it available in the digital service record, it gets populated in a little graph or table here on the right hand side. You can click Show More to see exactly what was carried out. And we can see it was Preston Audi that looked after this car last, and they did an oil change service. You can also see that by hovering over the graph on the left hand side. And before that was Preston, then it was Crew Audi who did an inspection with the oil change. There was some additional work carried out, dust and pollen filter and an air cleaner element. And once that service history has been requested, the odometer readings that were recorded are automatically added to the mileage history above. So just to show you that, we have 110,087 here as a service. And we come back up here, we will see 110,087 recorded with a trade source on the 4th of July 2024, and that 4th of July should be the same date as the service being carried out. So that's the service history. Then coming down through at risk, the taxi and usage check. This car wasn't found on the taxi and usage check. In this instance, I haven't checked whether the car has a recall outstanding or not. I know it's a pretty old car, so it's unlikely, but let's just do it anyway so we can see it happen on the check here. All I've done is click the button to check for recalls. It's now confirmed that there is no recall outstanding, and I last checked it on the 29th of January 2025, which is of course recorded in the notes section as well. This means that any subsequent complaint by a buyer that says this car has a recall outstanding on it and it was there when you sold me the car, you can evidence that actually no, we checked the car on this particular date and there were no recalls outstanding. Underneath we have keeper information. This car has 5 previous keepers. We have its age. We compare it with the average keepers for its age. And we're comparing the last V5C date with the current one so that they match and we don't have any logbooks floating around out there or V5Cs that shouldn't be. We track all of the plate changes against this car, any color changes, whether it was imported or exported. Here are all the previous MOTs, whether they passed or failed, and what the advisories were. Again, a very popular feature of a Motorcheck report, because if a car is presenting with, for example, run flat tires that are near their legal limit, that can be a very useful point of negotiation in calculating the part exchange value. So let's come all the way down through this check. I'm keen to get to the previous ads section as well, so I can show you if there's any previous listings against this car. Motorcheck collects valuations from a number of providers: Auto Trader, Glasses, Percaso and Brigo. You can also include average values if you'd like to, which averages the ones that you've applied to your check. So in this example, we can see when it comes to trade values, Auto Trader have pegged this car at £2,157. Glasses are a very strong 3,700, as are Percaso at 3,300, Brigo at 4,137. They seem to line up a little bit more on the retail side. So Auto Trader's retail is 4,800. Percaso on the high end are 5,600 or 5,400 in the supermarket. Brigo at 5,400 and our average at 5,284. And if you've got a particular strategy in your business and you'd like to see what the profit corridor would be, where you might purchase at Glasses Trade and you want to sell at Auto Trader Retail, that will give you a snapshot of what your profit corridor is potentially on that car. And you can adjust that as you see fit. So coming down through all of the valuations, here are the previous advertisements. So this car is currently for sale indeed. You've got all the images that have been taken, and we can see that it was listed on the 19th of January. We last saw it on the 23rd of January, so we've seen it now for 4 days. Its first advertised price was £4,999. It's still got a listing price of £4,999, and its mileage. The seller's name is Paul. He's a private seller, and he has listed the car with this detail underneath it. And as we go back through the history, we can see beside it here, there was one sold back in 2022. I can see from the sign it was Richmond Car Sales. There's the pictures that they have of the car at the time they were selling it. They had it on sale for 48 days and they advertised it at £8,295. I can see the mileage history here of 102,000 as a car supermarket. And obviously they have a much better description of the car here that could be useful for you if you're thinking of relisting this car. And then moving on down, we can see a previous sold record in 2021. Again, Richmond Car Sales with a nice detailed description. And prior to that, back in 2016, we have a listing here of a private seller who sold it for £13,750. So very useful information appearing exclusively in a Motorcheck report. We're the only trade provider that includes this information in our checks. So I mentioned running costs. Running costs are included towards the bottom of our checks here, where we'll outline the cost of road tax, fuel. We'll have some indicative insurance ratings as well. There doesn't seem to be anything here for the TT, but if we jump back into, let's have a look at this. Let's try this E220 BMW. We go to the bottom of the running costs. There we go. Road tax, fuel, insurance. And right underneath that, we've got the manufacturer's warranty. So partially expired at the moment. The only things valid still are the anti-corrosion and the roadside assistance, which is still valid. Interesting to know. This is the image capture feature. So if I wanted to ask somebody to send me pictures of this car as it sits today, I can pop in their name and phone number and hit request images, and it will send a text message to them. When they click a link in that text message, it brings them to a web app that allows them to record some photographs or video and upload it and send it right back to your Motorcheck report. Finally, at the very bottom, we have a list of notes of anything that's been updated on the check or rechecked. So that's the full Motorcheck report. There are some other features that I'd love to show you, like printing a report, where you can print the full report. You can indeed, if you decide to remove the MOT section, you can untick it. You can untick anything you want in there and it will remove it from the bit underneath, and you can save that as your default view. Alternatively, you could decide to print a silent sales sheet, which is just a 1 page. You might want to print an environmental sheet. All of these are available as PDFs as well if you'd like to store them in a deal file. And on the left-hand side, very quickly running you through some of the other options. We've got some spec information here. You can perform data lookups if you want to just do quick fire and forget lookups on tire sizes or valuations or quick identity. There's lots of information there. They all cost something in the region of 10p for a standard lookup, and there's individual prices against the valuation providers. You can have as many locations and as many users as you want on your account. There are no license fees or no per user charges. It's very easy to look at all of your billing, your transactions, your previous invoices directly online. We have the ability to set up pay-as-you-go accounts, or indeed you can go to paid monthly account. And I'm just going to bring up the rates for you here. So on pay-as-you-go pricing, our checks are £3.30 per check. No monthly commitment. Sign up now and you just top up as you need to with a credit card, 50 go on a top up. Or you can access a monthly plan where checks start at £1.20 and you can save up to 64%. Those monthly plans are against the monthly minimum of either 20 checks a month here in this second bracket, 20 to 49, 50 checks a month, 100, 200, 400, 700 or 1,000 checks a month, and you'll see the price reducing on the right hand side there. If you're interested in what's included in a check, this particular page here, the pricing page, lists everything that's included as default and some of the other great features that we have. On this link you can book a meeting with me anytime if you'd like to ask some questions about Motorcheck or even discuss a bespoke offer for your dealership or your dealer group. Some customers like to set up their account to omit particular valuation providers, or they don't want one piece of information and they do want another. That's absolutely fine. We can configure the report for any way you need it. Lastly, I will say that on the left-hand side of your account, once you're logged in, we have a suite of offers for some partners that we're very happy to work with. Go Shorty, or our drive-away insurance partner. You can sign up free of charge for them as a Motorcheck customer and earn a commission of £12 on every drive-away policy that people purchase there. Car Dealer Reviews will manage your online reputation very, very well. They have an offer on here where you can get 10 verified reviews absolutely free of charge if you click that button. On CarWow, there's 50% off your first buyer's fee when you join CarWow Auctions. And last but not least, at the moment, there's £200 off your first buyer's fee when you join the Classic Trade Auctions. They're all available online there. I did mention in my presentation earlier about our support team, and I just want to show you how you access those. They're on the bottom right-hand side here in this little chat widget. Once you click that, you can begin a chat online with any one of our support team there, or indeed you can access some of these other articles that we've written about various things, like our WhatsApp integration. Very, very popular feature. Simply send a registration number through. The app will tell you it's generating a report and provide back a WhatsApp message with all of the information that you need. And there's that little button right at the bottom to view the full report. So thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. It's gone on a little longer than I would have liked, but hopefully you now have all of the information that you need to make a decision on joining Motorcheck. As I've said before, if there's absolutely anything that you still have questions on, please message me directly and we'll be in touch. Thank you so much.